Brussels is a city for cars, and we should become a city for people. I mean, you ask a European Commissioner, you ask a little child, and everybody will say there are so many cars in this city. And it's having to do with the fact that after the World War, Brussels decided that the car was the future, and that the economy and all the development of the city should be based on cars. And if you go back to the other one, you see this is the Atomium. This is in '58. This was the turning point, not only for Belgium, but for the whole European Union, that we have this world exhibition in Europe. You know, the car was a symbol of the future. I'm sure in a couple of years, probably, everybody will say that the invention of the car was the biggest mistake that human mankind has ever made. You know? I will come back to that later. But sometimes you have to make mistakes in life. So this is a city for cars. You know, this is the, you see at the end, the Basilique de Koekelberg. The viaduct is of course a very old picture, but the viaduct is only 30 years ago, went away only 30 years ago, not even that, yeah, something like that, 30 years ago. So it's a pretty recent, if you see the development of the city. Another example that we will show, you know, the Grand Place. It's only not so many years ago back, not so many years ago, you had this. And you know, when you go to the Grand Place, you sometimes will see on a morning cars being parked on the Grand Place. And you know what's happening then?
Weddings?
No, the gathering of the 19 mayors. I say in the morning, at 8 o'clock in the morning. Nobody met at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, nobody. It's always in the details. But when the 19 mayors meet in the city, they meet in the city hall in front of this building, and they park the car on the Grand Place. That explains it. Next. Well, today, you know, this is a terrible picture of the Rue de la Loi, you know, with so many cars in there. Okay, the Bourse, we don't have it anymore since 3 years, but you know, it used to be like that, with cars just in front of it. And explained it already, we can skip that. You know, this is very important, because Brussels is not only 1.2 million inhabitants, but every day there are nearly 350,000 commuters coming into Brussels to work here. And of course we should be happy that we have commuters working here. After all, we are the capital of this country. But we are such a tiny country, which means that for people it's very easy to live on the countryside. And half of them, 175,000, decides every day in the morning to come individually by their own car to Brussels. I've already been thinking on the Charles Leclerc or the E40 to be there with a kind of a PAN card. You are the traffic jam, you know. There is no law in this country or in this city where we decided to make traffic jams. It's just the sum of all these individual decisions made by people in the morning to come individually by their cars. And sometimes I think there must be outer space life, you know. And that people are observing the planet Earth, you know, by people or something else, I don't know, you know. And then they must say these humans, they are very weird things, you know. Everywhere in the world in the morning, you have people getting into a car where up to 4 or 5 people can be in the car, but there's only one guy in there or one woman, and they're just transporting air from one place to another. Because basically that's what we are doing. The capacity of our roads is much bigger than is being used today if we would share cars. But by deciding we go everybody with their own car, we are just transporting air in this world. So, half of the families living in the city don't have a car. But the further you go to Gistelinck, the more they will have per family. 1 out of all the journeys in the city are for a distance of less than 5. Everybody knows a distance less than 5 kilometers, you can do that by public transport or by bike. But the president of the Brussels Parliament, the guy who has been since ages the most important politician in the city, just said a couple of weeks ago in a newspaper, "Oh, I'm so fed up, you know, I think that every Brusselaar should be able to use his car to do distances of 3 kilometers. An important politician dares to say today that for the short movements in a city, you should use your car. This is not the vision of mine, and it is not a vision of any normal human being living in a city. For short movements, you use something else. Public transport, we have 401 million people using every year public transport in Brussels. Do you know that 37% of all journeys in Brussels are made by walking? And the people living in Brussels, only 1 out of 3 the movements they will make in Brussels will be by car. And the rest is made by walking or public transport and bike. Bike, only 7%. Some will say it's 5%. There's a lot of discussion about the figures. And these are very important figures too I want to give you. These one are the movements to and from Brussels, so outside, inward Brussels. These are the ones inside Brussels. 2/3 will come by car. 1/3 will come by public transport. Of course, no one is walking from Flanders or Wallonia to Brussels. And only 1% is using a bike as a commuter. Inside Brussels, of course, that's less. It's 1 out of 3. That's nearly 1 out of 4 will take public transport. A lot of walking inside Brussels and a bit more bikes. So this card is saying everything. The redder it gets, the more red it gets, that's the place where the commuters live who work in Brussels. And immediately you will see the real metropolitan area around Brussels, and you will see that the vast majority of the people living, working in the city are actually living in a range of 20-25 kilometers around Brussels. And they are coming by car. And we have different reasons why every morning these people are deciding in Flanders and Wallonia to come individually by their cars. First is the federal fiscal system. You know, I already said Belgium is a small country. It only takes you 1 hour and a half to be in France and Germany, even in the United Kingdom, by the train. So you get easy everywhere. But by being a small country, it's very easy to get to live in the countryside and come to the city. And that is something important you should know about Belgians. They are not urban. There are many reasons for that, but an ordinary Belgian will say a city, not for me, you know. You know, I'll sometimes say it's the summit of integration. I know it's a tricky issue I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, you know. You know, people of Moroccan origin who are living in the city, or Turkish origin, when they have a good salary and they want a better future for their kids, they want a home with a garden outside Brussels. That's what an ordinary Belgian wants too. I call it the summit of integration, you know. They're just becoming Belgian all the way. But they should stay in the city and stay urban. But in the DNA of an ordinary Belgian, living on the countryside, a house with a garden and with a thing, a fence around it, of course. And for the Flemish one, it's a ferment. I don't know if you know ferment. That's the idea. And then we have a federal fiscal system that's promoting that. The federal system says living on the countryside should be cheaper than living in a city. First of all, living in a city is more expensive when you buy your grocery or you know your French fries. I don't know if you ever tried French fries in Wallonia or Flanders. It's half the price in Brussels and you get a double portion. It's much cheaper living on the countryside in general. But then your property taxes in Flanders and Wallonia are much cheaper than in the city. You can have an apartment in Brussels and you have to pay more than the ones who have a villa with a swimming pool in Flanders. It's reality. The property taxes are lower. And then we have this very strange system in Belgium that all the movements for work, living are 100% reimbursed. So there is no incentive to go live where you work. Because you can live somewhere in the countryside and your train will be paid by your employer. Which is completely nuts, because living on the countryside is much more expensive for society. Because you have to make all the gas, the water, and all the things, you know, and the urban sprawl is very inefficient and very expensive, not only from an economic point of view, but also ecological point of view. But even though our federal fiscal system, you know, stimulates that. Another thing I want to say, because I already said Belgians are anti-urban, but it's good for you to know. You know that we have a very well-developed railway system in Belgium. You know why we have a very well-developed railway system in Belgium? There is a very ideological reason to that. In the 19th century, you know, this country had a big struggle between liberals and conservatives. The conservatives were the Catholics, you know. And many of the people working, they were living on the countryside, you know. And, you know, at the time, the priest, that was the guy you had to listen to, you know. And the political people of that time, you know, with the industrialization, the, how do you call it, the companies, they were in cities, for obvious reasons. But cities were considered by the Catholics and the conservatives as places of very bad habits, you know. Liberal thinking, prostitutes, free thinking, and things like that. So in the morning, they wanted to get these people very fast in the city, and in the evening, very fast back home. So the ideological thinking behind our railway system was, don't get our working people being spoiled by the free thinkers in the cities. It's reality. That's the reason why we have a very well-developed railway system. But it's not that well-developed because in the area around Brussels, we don't have enough trains. I mean, we don't have an RER like Paris. I call it, as I said earlier, le réseau éternellement retardé, because since 30 years we're already talking that we're going to get an RER. Now it's announced for 2030. So, federal government made 1.8 billion euros extra. We will see, but it'll take another years. But we need that, because we need, like German cities or Paris or London, a system where all these commuters living here simply can take several trains an hour in order to get into Brussels. Another reason why we have so many people coming into Brussels by the car is we have a very favorable system for company cars. In any normal city or any country in the world, you know, it's only the senior management that will get a company car. In Belgium, the junior management will get a company car. And then you have kids of 22 years, you know, in kind of professions where they are in shortage of that. They go to the boss and say, hey, what kind of car I get, you know? And then the companies are obliged to give them a car because the way salary is being paid in this country. Because when you give a car to someone with a diesel card, you don't pay taxes on that, or very limited. And when you pay someone in salary, you have to pay a lot of social security taxes. So the system is not right. And the fact that we have so many company cars, it costs the Belgian federal state around 4 billion euros a year. 4 billion euros. That's a lot of money we could invest in public transport. Still one more?
Last one.
Susie gets bored. She has heard so many times. So we have modernism. I already told that. After the war, the whole idea was we have to construct Belgian society around the car. Don't forget, Belgium was a country with lots of car plants. You know, we still have a few of them, but we used to have many of them. So the combination of all this makes that in the DNA of a Belgian, the habit is to go and work by your car. You know? And so we have to change the habits of people. And probably the solution of mobility problems is change the habits of people. Yeah, city. So, we are a city for cars. No, I know you're getting lost. We are becoming a city for people, to make a paradigm shift. And I think we are doing it, because some people are very angry on me. You know, I got even death threats. I had to go to police, because they say, Smet, no, it's going too far. I already told you the Ayatollah of all the Greens. Huh? I know he has to be killed, because really people write it, and it's so amazing. They write it on Facebook with the name and everything, you know. And then, you know, it was a little bit too much. So I think we're changing the paradigm. We are in a transition period, and so we become a city of people. I don't know if some of you remember Flagey like this. Actually, this is one of the reasons why I went back in politics. You know, I used to be in politics, and then I said, never, never, never again. I hate politicians. I stopped with it. And then they asked me, already some years ago, 15 years ago, you want to be in Brussels? And then I was living in the city, and I used to walk a lot in the city, you know, and I got a kind of frustrated city architect, you know. I say, why is there a park? Why are there hell in Flagey? There are these cars parked, you know. I used to buy French fries over there. They were already at that time very good at Flagey. So And then, you know, I say this has to change. And Flagey has changed. It used to be like this. Go back maybe because some people didn't see it. Yeah, you see, this was Flagey. And then we launched in 2006 the first international design competition for public space in Brussels. The first. That was a big fight, you know. It was no longer an engineer who was going to make a square, but an architect and an urban planner. That was a big revolution in the city, you know. And some people really want to boycott, and of course you all know Flagey today with the fountains. You know, for me this is one of a good working square. And why is it good working? Because one of the functions of a city is that people meet each other, interaction of human beings. And probably you know that Flagey is on the crossroads between rich and poor, between immigrant, non-immigrant, Eurocrats and non-Eurocrats, if I may use that word here today. Drogués and non-drogués, you know, drugged ones and not drugged ones. You have everything there. Old and young, but it works. They are together living on the square. It's one of the few squares in Brussels, actually, where you can see heaven. Le ciel, how do you say that in English? Sky. That was what I'm looking for. You can see the sky. Big look at the sky. Flagey is working. But you know, I had to fight for 2 years to get a car off that square. And at the end, the last fight was, you know, the square before the Flagey and the church. Remember that square? The city council wanted a parking there. They say, okay, we lost the fight for the big square, but now we want the cars there. And then we say, no, 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 no. And I'm happy we gained it, because today, if you go over there, you will see all the people just sitting there and having a drink and a good time. So there used to be Flagey. Reyers, you probably will know that. We made the destruction of the flyover at Reyers, which was actually not being used at its capacity. Only 50% of the capacity was used. It was an urbanistic monster, big mistake. And you know, that was for me the idea that things really has changed in Brussels. They didn't lock me up when I broke this flyover. If I would come with this idea 15 years ago, they would say, Smet, lunatic, go to psychiatric ward, you know. But they didn't do it. And the people in the neighborhood, they even bought me a bottle of champagne I've never seen in my life. A big lamb was this, you know. I know it's gone, but then we had a little problem, the tunnels. We discovered that the tunnels everywhere in the city, well, we thought they were renovated, but they were not. But also here, that 4 out of the 6 tunnels are in so bad shape. So normally we should have already done the definite redesign of it. But because we have first to renovate the tunnels, which actually we are doing now, and just, how do I say that, a service announcement. Next week we will close 3 of the 4 tunnels. So everybody is in that area, prepare for traffic jams, you know. I'm already doing like this. So, but we don't have a choice. We have to do it. And then afterwards, next year, we will start and we will transform this urban highway into an urban boulevard with trees, dedicated cycling lanes, bigger pathways for pedestrians, reduced space for cars, more for people, a real urban place to be. Okay, another example, you know Place Roger. That's also a beautiful example. Show the whole place, you know Place Roger. All of you know it. It's the square with the most concentration of the biggest hotel chains. I mean, you can see the Grand Plaza, the Hilton. You used to have the Sheraton, you know, gone, but there's a new one coming. You have the Ton Hotel, you have Siri Hotel, you have Others Hotel. Then you have this very ugly pyramid. I don't know if you know, for La Petite Histoire. They built the pyramid at the Louvre in Paris, and then they said in Brussels, we want that too. And they came with this. And instead of the museum, there was only one annual event, a erotic show. So that's Brussels. You know, we have a saying: when it rains in Brussels, when it rains in Paris, it drops in Brussels. You know. So, but we are changing that. So, Flagey, Roger. So I said, you know, this is not possible. I mean, in those hotels, you know, you have head of states. The Chinese president stayed at the Sheraton. You know, you have head of states, governments, prime ministers, diplomats, businessmen who are tourists who are sleeping here, and they are coming outside, and then they only see cars. Again, Tirana before the war. They say, what is this? So this is a carte visite. Then we launched another competition, And then, you know, we have now, it's nearly finished. I hope everything will be done in September. And then this little kind of bay will be very beautiful, lightened. It will be very white at night, so it will change the whole thing. We have the first, there's another picture you can see. You know, I have a good, yeah, this one, for instance, you know, the first mist fountains in Brussels. It's very beautiful to go there. If you want to see city life and stories, you know, people, especially tourists, you know, the first days that things was functioning, people called a lot of police. They were thinking that the subway was on fire. You too, you called police. Well, there's someone who is honest to say so. So people said that the subway is on fire. And it was very beautiful to see that people went there with their finger in order to see if it was smoke. And then they saw it was water. And even today, you know, there's a lot of people taking pictures. I don't know if you know, but on Instagram, this is one of the most taken pictures by tourists of Brussels. So it means, you know, from a place where only cars were there, it's getting, you need Instagram, you know, people take these pictures, so it's a good thing. Place du Mont, another example, and it used to be like this. I don't know if you know Place du Mont in Woluwe near Stokkel, you know, very fancy, rich people there. You know, cars everywhere, of course. So then together with the local municipality, we say, we are going to make a big square. I don't know, many of you will know Gaston. You know Gaston? Yeah. Who doesn't know Gaston? What a shame. You live close to there. You know, Gaston is the cremerie, Place Sainte-Catherine, where you will find all the Dutch-speaking people living in that area, and other people too. They are opening a second shop here, so you don't have to go to Place Sainte-Catherine. For me, it's the best ice cream of the city. Then, make some publicity. Portenino. I know you know Portenino. It's between Molenbeek and Brussels City. Go back, you're going too fast. Yeah, you know, you see this is a no man's land. Actually, someone got even shot here a couple of years on USE. A real no man's land. We are now making a park there. We are redoing the La Petite Ceinture who passes through there. Yeah, you can go. And you see we're doing a park. And this is the situation during the works. So what we will do is, and you will see it on you see it work. Yeah, it will become, we will make a square. You used to have cars here. All the cars are now behind that building. You know Frédéric Nicolai, the guy who does all these cafes. He probably wants to open one of them here. We have fountains where kids can play. So there will be a car-free square, the Ninov there, and then the park. Okay, this will be the park. You probably will say, that's an empty park. Yeah, it's a lawn. We did it on purpose. We will plant some trees, but this is the first time we do that in Brussels. It's an evolutive park. I mean, people can make the park themselves. So we are now doing the basic stuff, big lawn, some trees, and then we will people that walk into the parks, the elephant paths, you know, because you can make as a designer paths where you want people to walk in a park, but people say we don't like that, or we do our own path. So that's called the elephant paths. We will do that, and then afterwards we harden them so you will have real tracks in the park. And then there will be more trees and bushes and things for kids to play. But we will do that together with the people. By using the park, we will understand what people are really wanting from the park, and then we can do it together with them. Here there is the tram and the street. Here you have this big hall. There are three, for the ones of you who want to buy an apartment in that area, there are three towers that will be built with apartments with beautiful views on the city. And here on that block we will build social housing with a view on the park. So that's a very big project. It will be finished at the end of the year. So, Chaussée d'Ixelles, you probably know it's a big, I'm not going to say a mess, but it's a big works over there. It's a little bit chaotic, but the 7th of July it will look like that. You know, I don't know if the people like that will be here, but the buses will be back. This will not be done. We will do that later. This part, but everything from here on towards there will be finished. So we still have something like 6 weeks and a half to go. Actually, I have good news. We are 1 day ahead of schedule. So, and this is the future Chaussée d'Ixelles. Chaussée d'Ixelles, sorry, the Place Fernand-Coq. You know Place Fernand-Coq, today it's also parking space, it's a street over there. We are going to keep, of course, here the street, but all the rest will become car-free, will become a nice, intimate square where people can meet, and you see we'll have fountains too, where kids can play again. It will be much more open. There was some fuss about cutting the trees, but the trees were toxic. They were in a bad situation, and the roots were very bad, so we couldn't keep them. But at the end of the project, there will be much more trees being planted on the Place Fernand-Koch. So, of course, we only cut trees when it's really, really, really necessary. Another thing is we will open a perspective on the Place Communale, on the City Hall. So when you're walking in the Chaussée d'Ixelles, you actually will walk and will be drawn into the City Hall building and to the square. I don't know if some of you know Jan Gehl. Who doesn't know Jan Gehl? Jan Gehl is the guy who made Copenhagen, did lots of things in New York, Moscow, and many cities in the world. It's kind of a guru of urban planning. And, you know, and he explained, he's an architect, and then he married a psychiatrist, and this woman learned him, his wife learned him to be a good architect, you know. Architects, I don't know if there are architects here, but architects have the tendency to look like this, you know. But nobody looks like this on the street. Only if you're working in a tower, you will have this bird view. People look like this, so an architect that's making public space should look like this and has to take into account basic human functions and basic human fears. You know, human being, he always wants that his back is being protected. That's the reason why some squares function and other squares not, you know. People want to be protected by their back, so they will very rarely go in the middle and sit like that because they think it's dangerous instinctively. So when you make a square, you have to take that into account. And he explained, you know, on the city that functions, people who walk in the city, they have to be distracted and they need a destination. And the worst thing that you can do is make a big lane because people will think, oh, that's far. I don't want to walk on that, you know. But with this, you have a tendency to walk to that building because you have a perspective, and then you will come and you will see a beautiful square. So that's one of the reasons why Siena in Italy and Florence in Italy are archetypes of cities. Because you go from, you wander from one square to another square. You're always being distracted. You have always curbs in the street, and people like to be distracted and surprised. So good cities that function, they make this. They distract people and give surprises. So that's the same thing we wanted, the perspective on this building. Then of course the pedestrianized zone. You know, that's one of the reasons too why I re-entered politics. You know, I often walk there and I say, what the hell is this? The highway, we need to ramble us over there. And finally we managed it, but then of course the city of Brussels de-managed it a little bit by taking too much time and take a decision and wait 3 years for the redesign actually being done. But today they are working on it. I don't think this is it's good. It's not a top architecture, but it's good. It will function. The only thing I hope they will keep it clean. The lawns here, that's a big challenge, I think. But you know, Place Fontenas, you probably know Fontenas. No, it's terrible. It will be nice, green, no more cars. Okay, then Schumann Square. Probably most of you passes there every time, every day. You know, Schumann Square, I don't know, you probably know, this is the square that's the most filmed square in the world. This is a square where the most head of states will pass, where the most ministers will pass, diplomats will pass, journalists will pass. It's the most ugly square in the world. This should be the carte de visite of our city, because it's the most international square. Just think you're an American tourist, you know, and you said, I heard I'm going to Brussels. Already American is going to Brussels, huh? Now they think, oh, it's a hellhole. There's a guy over there that thinks that it's a hellhole. But you know, that guy who said that Brussels was a hellhole, he thought that Brussels was a country and that Belgium was a city. So we shouldn't take for sure what he was saying. No, not yet. So the Schumann Square, it's you're an American tourist or whatever tourist you are. You're coming there and you see, I want to see the headquarters of the European Union. You know, I'm a guy like that when I'm visiting a city. I want to go to see the parliament. I want to see City Hall. My partner hates that, but I like to see that. You have many people who want to see that, you know. And then you go to the European Union and then you come there. And the only thing you see is cars, traffic jam, boom, boom, boom. I mean, you don't want to eat your sandwiches here. You don't want to be here with your girlfriend or boyfriend until you want to end a relationship, maybe. So this is a square that doesn't work. And then we have this roundabout. No one has ever given me explanation why we need this roundabout here. It makes no sense. I will tell you some other secret. You know, every time you walk on Schumann Square, you should be aware that actually you're walking on a big hole. I don't know if you know that, but below the concrete there is one big hole with tunnels, with pipelines, with lots of empty space. And that's the reason why it will be very complicated to build, to put trees here, because it's just emptiness under it, and it's just concrete with built things. So it's empty. Every time you walk there, it's empty. Yeah? So we lost the competition, and this is the result of a Danish and Belgian architect team. We will semi-pedestrianize it. You still can come from the Rue Froissart, you can go to the Adrien, you can't go, you just can't go,
Straight.
Straight? You cannot cross anyway. You cannot cross the street. And then some people who are living there, they're very angry because they have to change their habits. They have to be, when they want to take their car, it takes them 3 minutes more to take another road, and so on. They're very angry. But aside of that, it's a good thing. We are bringing life back to the square. We will have people eating their sandwiches, people being very romantic during the evening. And we want a light program, so it's a nice place to stay at any time of the day. Yeah, Suzy? This is La Petite Rue de la Loi. Another thing we ask the architects is that the entrance actually of the Parc des Cinquantenaires should be on the Schumann's place, And no, you have the park here, so, no, it's okay, yeah, here. So we will do this completely car-free. It will be completely car-free. It will be much more nicer, and it will be much, people will have a tendency to go from the square to the park. It will be one natural movement. But when I first talked in the Brussels government, just to give you an idea of the attitude, I said I want to do Schumann. You know what he said, many of my colleagues? Just think, what could he say when I came with the idea, we have to do Schumann?
Don't do it because it's only expensive.
Yeah, there are no voters living there. I say, hold on, we are doing this for our city. This should be a place we are very proud of. Thanks to the European Union, we are not such a dull, boring European city, And I hope we will manage it, but still have a fight. The architects are seeing everybody, making their plan. So support me, Even one of our European commissioners, the German Oettinger. I don't know if you know Oettinger. He's the one responsible for the relations between Brussels and, every 3 months we meet the European Commissioner, the Secretary General of the Parliament, the President of the Parliament, the Secretary General of the Council, and one of the 3 ministers was there. And one of the meetings, he didn't like it, He said, Oettinger, And then he said, yeah, cars, and then, and then came all these things out. And I told him, and he didn't like it. But I said, you're European Commissioner. And the European Commissioner, European Commission, you make these blue papers, these green papers, red papers, white papers. I don't know which kind of colors you have in your papers. You're making so many papers. And you are saying to the member states and the regions and the cities, we have to get less cars and we need car-free zones. And I said to him on the meeting, Commissioner, I'm just applying Commission policy in front of your door. And then you saw all these diplomats getting very nervous, because they don't like it when you gave a thing like that. So, but we didn't hear anything of him anymore, so I hope... Place Miroir à Jet. I don't know if you know Jet. Who knows Jet? It's one of the 19 municipalities. I don't know if you want to see real Belgian life, you have to go, when it's finished, the square, on a Sunday morning. You will have one of the biggest markets in the city, high-quality markets, where lots of people of Flanders come to Jet to go to one of these traditional markets where you can buy everything. It's very nice, it's very cozy. But this used to be a place with only cars on it. And some side cafes, but very, very limited. And then we decided to make a tramway here, and the 1st of September we will open a new streetcar line in Brussels. And this is a square going to be in exactly 4 weeks. So we still have some work to do, but it will be completely car-free. Again, fountains. You must think I'm a fountain freak. So every square we do, we have fountains. Yeah. But I think it's nice that people and kids play in the fountains. They like it. We will have benches, of course, trees, and no more cars. And we have an underground parking. So for the ones of you who like soccer, this will be one of the 2 places during the World Championship that actually you can go in public and see soccer. 6,000 people will be allowed on the square, So it will be, and so that's the reason why we have to finish it by the mid-June. So, okay, I'm going a bit faster because I'm taking time, I think. So we are investing a lot of money in public transport. Just going very quickly, 5.2 billion euros, new metro line, modernizing the whole metro system. We will go from 2 minutes and a half to 1 minute and a half for the frequency of the lines. We are building new tram lines, open 2-1 this year. We have a new bus line with new bus lines, a bit faster. You see this is a new line. We have new metros ordered. 43 ones are being made now in Spain, in the Basque country. It's going to look like this. You know, that's not that bad. This is the look of the new subway that will be running from 19, I think the first one will be here. Completely new look. This is another, the tram. Every time we make a tram line now, it's no longer an engineer work, it's complete integration in public space. This is in Woluwe. I don't know if you know Rob, the most expensive supermarket of the city. Well, they have a very beautiful urban boulevard now with beautiful trams. It's also going to open in the end September, beginning of October. It used to be like this, an urban highway, yes, and it's looking like this. Changing, you know, we're changing a lot. New buses, we're only buying hybrid buses now, no longer diesel buses. We're going electric in 2030. In a couple of weeks in the city of Brussels, we will open the first full electric bus line in Brussels that will connect the uptown and downtown, Louise and Dansard. That will start in a couple of weeks. Our first electric line, and we will bit more lines is kind of the bus we're going to buy. We are building parking rights at the edges of the city connected to the subway system. You can see here, I have to go start now, 8,000 for 2020. Every year we are going to construct one. This is Syriakovi in Anderlecht. We are renovating the tunnels. Are you interested in the renovation of the tunnels? No?
Yes.
Yeah.
Particularly when to finish.
But some people think we're doing it too fast now. Huh? But, you know, we are going to spend something like 750 million euros during 10 years. But some people say it's too much, but I just compare with the investment in public transport, that's 5.2 billion euros compared to 750 million euros. So I think the balance is very clear what we choose. Montgomery Stephanie is finished. Well, it's finished, but not the look of Stephanie, because that will be done later. Roger is finished the étanchéité, the waterproof of the tunnel has been completely redone. In 2 summers we have done that. Porte Nature is, we're doing it right now. There are some issues about the quality of the concrete right now. That's the reason why we are not continuing the work there, because a decision has to be taken. We have Port de Haal. That will be finished at the end of the year. That will be completely renovated at the end of the year. Reyes will be finished end of the year, beginning 2019. So that will be finished too. And Leopold 2, we will start now this. We actually started on the 1st of May. You know, the Leopold 2 tunnel is a tunnel that connects the E40 from Ostend, Ghent to Brussels. That tunnel we started the 1st of May. That will take 39 months, the renovation, but during day the tunnel will be open, 2 lanes every direction. It's only Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night and Thursday night that we close the tunnel from 10 o'clock in the evening till 6 o'clock in the morning, and Friday and Saturday night the tunnel will be open because there are too many people using the tunnel who go out into the city in the restaurants and the bars. About Leopold 2 tunnel, we will close it though 3 summers. So this summer, the 1st of July till the 31st of August, the tunnel will be closed 2 months. That will be chaos, probably, because everybody has to go up. And so we are going to explain how you have to go. You have to go to the Boulevard Industriel or by the A12 in order to get into Brussels there. Chaussée-des-Linov also to leave the city. But we don't have another possibility. We have to close the tunnel. And because we have to get all the asbestos, you see asbestos in English? The asbestos has to get out. Next year we have to close it because the sole of the tunnel is bad, so we have to replace the whole of the sole. Of course, then we have to close it. I mean, we cannot keep it open. But for all the other works, we will keep it open. And that's the reason why it takes 39 months, because we keep the tunnel open during day and during 2 nights. So in the period of 39 months, only 6 months the tunnel will be completely closed. During summer months, so there's less traffic in it at all. And we are trying to convince people not to come by car to Brussels. If they come, share the car, take public transport, bike eventually. We're going to make a bike lane, so we'll see, but it will not be easy. Traffic flow, just simple thing, you know, we can skip that. Okay, of course we have to change the car sharing, maybe important to say. You know, I'm a believer. In 10, 15 years, I'm convinced there will be no longer private cars in Brussels, like in many other European cities. It will be automated, shared vehicles. Actually, there's a study being done that says that we need 25,000 shared automated electric vehicles to replace the whole car fleet actually present today in the city. That means that we have to prepare people into that transition. And that means that people have now to share cars, you know. People have to share their cars because it's very stupid to have your own car. I don't know, who has a car here? Don't be afraid. Okay, how many of you who have the car drives less than 10,000 kilometers? Sell your car. Because that's something else. But if you only use it your own, you are losing money. You are losing money. You are taking a very bad decision. If you drive more than 10,000 kilometers, you can own your private car. But if you don't do that, you go to Cambio, which exists today 15 years, by the way, or you use the free-floating car system. And we have Drive Now, Zipcar, we have other systems, and it's good, you know. It's not, lots of people are already entering into the system, but we need more people. People don't have their own car. Share the car, 95% of the time, the cars are parked and not being used in the city. So they are just using the public space. Taxi plan, I don't know if you're interested in a taxi plan. Uber, no, we skip it. You can ask a question if you want. Carpooling, I talked about it. We are going to very soon start with the electric charging stations all over the city. That's something that will happen this year. That's we skip. No emission zone, you know about it. We skip. Air pollution things, we skip. Biking, I love a lot biking in the city. We have lots of things. This is an example. We are doing Bourse et Bruckère. We are constructing there underground bike stations where you can park your bike 24 hours a day, 7 days a day. So that will be open at the end of the year. That's the work that we are doing at the Bourse station and Bruckère station right now. We are making separate bike lanes. I'm going to show you a little bit more pictures of that because it's very important. You know, there's all I can add. That's something else we're doing. Because sometimes we hear people saying in the city, you're doing all these bike lanes, they say, but there are no cyclists. First of all, I think you need some new glasses. Huh? But secondly, we are just showing, if you know past the thing at the Rue de la Loi, you saw one, I think we're something like 250,000 cyclists only this year. 250,000, one way. That's a lot of people. So that's the best argument we can say, hey, hold on. There are a lot of people cycling right today, and they have a right on dedicated, separate cycling lanes. That's what we're doing right now, everywhere in the city. You will see Avenue Van Praat, Avenue Britannique, we have done that already. This is the Allée Verte, we finished that. The Cinquantenaire, we finished that already too. Charles Roust is finished too. We are going to start it next year at Chaussée de Vilvoorde. We connect that with Vilvoorde in Flanders. So easy. That's the General Jacques. I know it takes too long, the works over there. But it will be finished the 1st of September. And then there will be a nice cycling lane with trees in the middle. It will be complete different look. Avenue Roosevelt. I don't know if you cycled already there. One side is a big major change. Much safer. Connecting the Bois de la Combre avec l'Avenue Louise. Okay, you can see it here, the work is being done. The Chaussée d'Ixelles, we are putting these things, Nature de Wavre, sorry. We are going to put in much more to protect the cycling lanes from the cars, something that we are doing right now, a lot. And then, I'm very proud of this. Probably it's one of my, if I may talk like that, legacy decisions. La Petite Ceinture, the symbol of the cars in Brussels, We just managed to get all our permits nearly to have all around La Petite Ceinture cycling lanes. It's the first time in Brussels that we take all around the ring road 2 lanes away from the car and giving it back to the people, giving it back to cyclists, giving it back to pedestrians. And we'll show you a couple of pictures. And I'm so happy we made these pictures. I don't know if you went already to the website, Kleine Ring, Petite Ceinture, Brussels. Just hold on. Go back. That's straight to the, yeah, it's okay. Today, yeah, okay. What are you doing? Okay. You know, you can scroll on it actually, the situation today, and then you go like this, and then you see the future situation. And I knew we had to do it, because by making a website with high quality simulation pictures, we just killed all the adversaries. The website of Le Soir nearly crashed the day we launched it, because everybody wanted to see it, and they saw, hey, that's good, you know, we like it. And nobody dared to say it was bad, because something what politicians often forget is about city planning, people don't read cards and maps, you know, they don't understand the plans, you know. You have to show how it's going to be. And by showing it, people said, that's good, you know, and we show it. You know, there's this near Ezer, it's like today like this, it's going to be like this. Unfortunately, we have to cut some trees. We are working on it right now. Okay, another, you know, this is on between Roger and Botanique. You know, this is one of these really highways in the city, and beneath that you have a tunnel. Fancy that, you have a tunnel and a highway at the same thing. Roger Botanique is going to be like this. That we are actually, it's nearly finished at Madou, where we are going to make a new square, cycling lane. Okay, Arlois, you see, completely, you see this? This is a real scandal, you know. Everything for the car. Okay, we have some people walking here, you know, just a little tiny thing. It's going to be like this. You nearly should cry, no? This is another Porte Namur. It's going to look like this. It's important because you have the AXA building, you will have a cycling lane, and we have own dedicated bus lane there, so the 71, I guess many of you will take the 71 to the city center, will cross and have its own lane, so the frequency and the regulation can be respected. Another example at the Porte de Halle, you see, and actually the cycling lane becomes a structural axe of the road. That's the first time that we are doing that by bike lane. Another example over there, yeah, you see. That's what we are doing right now, will be finished at the end of the year. At the Port Carré, you see completely change of situation today. And every time we make it like this, you know, you see people coming. To resume what we are doing, we are changing the paradigm of the city from a city for cars to a city for people. That's not an easy job because people grow up here in the city by the car. We are showing now that public space is important. We need you to convince and to explain that to people. The younger generation, again, understands in the city, and we need the coalition of the willing to continue this work because it's not finished. There's still a lot of work to do, you know. And one of my dreams is, if I may say, an Antwerp, that is that in all the city centers we have many city centers here, that at least we have car-free, or at least we have very limited access of cars, and giving this space back to the people, because the function of a city is meeting. And by ending, really not, you know, a last thing to say, I'm a cyclist too, you know, and every time I cycle in the morning, even if people I don't know, you will say hello after a couple of days because you see the same faces. You know, people on a bike and people walking, they say hello. You know how car drivers say hello in the morning? But that explains a lot. Because that's aggressive, that's being aggressive, that's being alone, that's being defensive, that's being closed, that's being anxious. And that's everything what a city should not be. A city should be about open, inclusiveness, meeting. And that you can only do by walking, by cycling, not being locked up in your own little private car, driving in the city. And actually, I believe that cars are killing city life. So we have to rebalance it, re-equilibrate it, not being against the car, because some people will need a car, but just not everything for the car. I want much more for the people. Thank you very much.